All right, we're going to go over graphing inequalities and interval notation. There's a copy of this worksheet on your Schoology. You can either print that or you can write this on your own notebook paper. Either one is fine. Okay, and when you're finished, just take a screenshot, upload it. We'll figure that part out. All right, this is kind of a review of some of the more middle school stuff relating back to 7th, 8th, and Algebra 1. Okay, it's pretty easy. We are going to use a closed dot for these two type of symbols, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. We use an open circle, or open dot, excuse me, for less than or greater than. Okay, so all these problems are going to have one of these four, excuse me, and that'll tell you what type of circle you use when you graph it. Okay, so you've probably seen that before. This might be a little bit new, interval notation. It's a way to write the solution to an inequality using infinity symbols, parentheses, and brackets. So just real quick, this is what they mean. Parentheses, not included, open. Okay. So they are connected to those. Brackets, included or closed. So they connect to those. All right, now this isn't really on here, but just a little bit of knowledge for you. If it is a parenthesis, and they pretty much all have it, if it's an infinity symbol, then it has parentheses. All right, this first one, real basic. This is giving you the answer, so it's not one you have to solve, but it just asks you to graph and then write the notation. It's giving you a number line, so if you printed off the worksheet, you have that. If you are notebook paper, just draw you one. Real simple. Straight line, 5 marks. 8 being your answer goes in the middle, and then we're going to do 2 numbers greater and 2 numbers less. To shade, we look at the symbol. It is greater than or equal to. So that's a closed circle. When you shade, really read what it says. X is greater than or equal to 8. So we're going to shade the numbers that are greater than. And our notation, it is read left to right. Now we're going to read the shading. The shading starts at 8 and it continues. Now remember, this is technically a line. Lines keep going forever. Since numbers have no end, we classify that using infinity. All right, 8 is at a closed circle, so that's included, bracket. The parenthesis, remember like we said, the infinity, excuse me, is at the parenthesis. Infinity is always with a parenthesis sign. Let's move to the second one. Very similar situation. -1 being our answer. And then we're going to do 2 values above that. Sorry, let me adjust real quick. Okay, 0 and 1 for greater, -2, -3 for less. All right, this is A is less than -1. So that's an open circle. And we're going to shade the values that are less than, smaller than -1. So we're going to shade to the left. Okay, and just like we did before, we're going to read the shading from left to right. It is continuing to go to the left. And if you keep going down the negatives, that's going to end up at -infinity. And it goes all the way and it stops at -1. Okay, parenthesis for the infinity. I got it right that time. And -1 is open, so that's also a parenthesis. All right, so that's how you shade and do your interval notation. It's very, very simple. To solve an inequality, since we've already done equations, these follow the same rules as you do for equations. The only difference in solving, that's the bell, time to go. Just kidding. Flip the inequality symbol if you multiply or divide by a negative number. Only a negative forces that to happen. Okay, with this one, let's go through this one. We have two terms with the variable v, so we're going to move them to the same side. Remember with equations, it doesn't matter which side you get them on as long as they're on the same. Usually we say which would be smaller, easiest to move. So probably 5. Positive 5v, so we're going to subtract on both sides. Here it's gone. 1 greater than 7v minus 5v is 2v minus 17. Right, continue with the solving. Add 17 to the other side. We're given 18 is greater than 2v. And then like we would do normal, divide by 2. 9 is greater than v. Now, before we shade, if you remember with number 1 and 2, the variable was always on the left side. Now, equations, you don't have to do that. But inequalities, it's going to make it a lot simpler. If your variable's on the right side, you're literally going to pick that up and flip it over. So we're going to pick that up and flip it. 9 and v switch places. The sign's going to flip. So instead of now reading 9 is greater than v, this is now read v is less than 9. Same thing, but this is going to be a little bit easier to shade. 9 in the middle, 2 numbers greater, 2 numbers less, and this would be an open circle. In our shading, v is less than 9, we shade our less than numbers. So remember with the shading, this starts at negative infinity because we're going to the less than the smaller numbers. It continues and stops at 9. Infinity gets a parenthesis. This is open, so 9 also gets a parenthesis. Okay, so not difficult. All right, and then let's also do number 5. This one has a parenthesis. If you recall when we did equations, if you see a parenthesis in the problem, distribute. That's going to be your first step. So the left side, we are not messing with yet. Negative 2 times positive 4 becomes negative 8. Negative 2 times negative 2p becomes positive 4p. Okay, so we've distributed to get rid of our parentheses. Now we're going to combine our like terms. Now, like we said earlier, on this one, the variable does better if it's on the left side. So let's move the 4 to that side. $12p minus 4p is 8p. Okay, so now we can move the 52. Negative 8 minus 52, same sign, add and keep, that would be negative 60. Okay, now at this point, you probably know that 8 does not evenly go into 60. Okay, it's not divisible, but it can reduce. Okay, this is a fraction. Divide them by 2, you would get 30 over 4. You can divide it by 2 again to get 15 over 2. So negative 15 halves. That's going to go in the middle. All right, and I'm leaving it as an improper fraction because most of our numbers are going to be in that form. Okay, they want you to be able to read improper fractions. When you list numbers, it does not have to be perfect. Okay, so like here, this was one even jump. Okay, but we're just listing numbers to show numbers that are greater than. Right? If you wanted to figure this out, negative 15 halves, that's really negative 7.5. Okay, so what's a number bigger than negative 7.5? Negative 6 is bigger. Negative 5 is also bigger. What's a number smaller than negative 7.5? Negative 8 and negative 9. Okay? Now you could list the fractions. I'm not too picky about that. I just want you to be able to list some numbers, greater than and less than. When we show you this one, this is also an open circle. Okay, but this is read P is greater than negative 15 halves. So we're going to shade to the right. We're going to go for the numbers that are greater than negative 15 halves. Okay, and then if we read the shading, we start here. I don't have room. I'm going to write it right here, negative 15 halves, because yes, I'm a rebel. Not really. And the shading keeps going all the way, continuing until infinity. Infinity gets a parenthesis because it always does. This is open circle, so it also gets a parenthesis. Okay, so we did 3 and 5. One of your assignments is I want you to try on your own number 4 and number 6. Okay, when you take a picture, make sure you show all your steps. So it should look like this. We need to see each step so we know that you've accurately done the work. Okay?